Hey, welcome to Friday and welcome to Planet Earth. Mr. H here with you. How you doing? It's been a fast week. It's been a good week. Of course it's a good week. You made it to Friday. You took on everything this pathetic world could throw at you. You stomped on its face and you're moving on into the weekend. And since football season's over and you got nothing else really better to do and maybe you're spending too much time on the computer after watching Planet Earth, of course, here's something you can do. Check out this book called HeavenSteel. It's on Lulu.com. Yeah, Mr. H wrote this, and I got a lot more coming up, too. If you like epic battles, you want a whole new world for you to explore, this book is for you. If you don't like it, re-gift it. That's a great American pastime. It's great for squashing bugs. And best of all, I get $1.12 if you buy it. So check it out on Lulu.com. Now for our regularly scheduled programming. So, we were talking about the Civil War last time, and I got a couple emails, people wanting to know about foreign reactions to the Civil War. Hey, Mr. H, when this thing was going on, what did the rest of the world think? Well, you got to remember, in 1860, America is not the world-spanning global superpower it is now. It's important. People know where it is, but, just not quite the superpower it is today. Everyone is aware of its growing industrial might, its growing trade, but it's not quite there yet. And how it develops kind of depends on how the Civil War thing turns out. Now, part of the Confederate strategy, of course, was to an outright victory, and part of the plan for an outright victory is to get somebody from the outside to intervene, and that probable somebody appeared to, at least from Richmond, to be Great Britain. The United States and Great Britain, they weren't friends, they weren't enemies, they were kind of frenemies. And Great Britain wanted to see the United States get taken down by a peg, but there's a small problem with supporting the Confederacy. Yeah, that slavery thing. The British had divided opinion. On one hand, they wanted the Confederacy to break free and, take the U.S. down a peg. Plus, British textile industry needed Confederate cotton, so there would have been a nice market and ally for them. On the other hand, can't get past that slavery thing, man. Slavery has become an affront to the modern world in 1860. And any way you look at it, Confederacy is going to have to get rid of it. Now, as far as the United States is concerned about Britain, yeah, they don't need the British getting mixed up in this. Britain's the major superpower. Britain's got the huge navy. In a one-on-one fight, doesn't look like either side could win. A lot of people are going to get killed for nothing. They're not going to destroy Britain. The British aren't going to conquer America, so really not much of a point in fighting. Plus, once again, nobody in London wants to spend treasure and shed blood for a bunch of slave owners. So it doesn't look like, any kind of British intervention is likely. Though the United States and Great Britain did have a little bit of a squabble. Yeah, the Trent affair. So a British mail carrier was, headed from someplace on its way to London with two Confederate, they called themselves officials. They called themselves the Secretary of State, and they're going to London looking for official recognition from the British. They're not going to get it. And a U.S. Navy ship decides, the British ship was called the Trent, the American one, the USS San Juan Cinto, stops it in international waters, boards it, and takes these two guys off. That is the international definition of piracy, actually. If it happened in U.S. territorial waters, it's U.S. territorial waters. But out there in the open seas, kind of the same thing the British did in 1812. So Britain was kind of upset for it for a while. They even sent 8,000 troops to Canada. But then they decided, we'll just kind of let this thing go. The U.S. decided to eventually send these two Confederate guys to London, where they sat there and did absolutely nothing. So at the end of the day, both guys decided not to engage in a major war. In other words, any Confederate hope of a British intervention is non-existent. Other than a direct U.S. attack on Great Britain or Canada, it's not going to happen. So the planners in London, planners in Richmond, forget it. It's not happening. Hey, how about France? I misspelled France. How about I left the E off? Maybe the French would intervene. The Confederates are hoping for history to repeat itself. They got their own sort of revolution thing going on. In 1778, France intervened and helped the United States. Maybe in 1861 or two, maybe the French come in and help the Confederates. Not going to happen because, first of all, that slavery thing again. Nobody is going to fight to the death for slave owners. Plus, France, they used uh, they used the Civil War kind of to go after Mexico as a target of opportunity. Remember the Monroe Doctrine? Yeah, the United States said no European colonialism in the Americas. Well, they can't really do anything about it when they're fighting the Confederacy, so France decides to try and take over Mexico. And they're going to set up their own emperor, a guy named Maximilian I from Austria, one of those Habsburg guys, don't have a job. 19th century France, 19th century Austria. These two guys couldn't run a lemonade stand, and you want them to try and take over Mexico. Yeah, how do you think that's going to go? Yeah, it does not end well. In fact, Cinco de Mayo, May 5th of 1862, is a major Mexican holiday when the French Foreign Legion fought to the death against like over 5,000 Mexican rebels. So yeah, it's not going to end very well for France. Maximilian, instead of instead of running back to Austria, he says the Mexican people love me, and he ends up in front of a firing squad in 1867. So does not end well. In other words, France doesn't care about the Civil War, uses a chance to try and take over Mexico, and in 19th century French fashion, they fumbled it. Spain, on the other hand, is not going to intervene in the Civil War in any way, shape, or form, but they do take advantage of America's preoccupation with the Confederacy to take back the Dominican Republic. They did for a little while anyway. They took it over for a couple of years. Then the Dominicans revolted. Eventually, Spain left, especially after the United States finished crushing the Confederacy. So Spain decides they're going to leave. Earlier, Spain, Britain, and France had landed in Mexico to get back some money they owned. Of course, they left, and we know the story happened with France staying there. But Spain, it took a shot at the Dominican Republic. It didn't really hang on to that for a while, so they just left. If you're asking who Spain is supporting in the Civil War, they're just going to say they don't care. How about Russia? Russia is an enthusiastic supporter of the Union. Tsar Alexander II was a big fan of Abraham Lincoln. He was, sending him letters, pen pals over here before they had emails. And he was so inspired by the Emancipation Proclamation, which said now the war was about slavery, so now nobody's going to intervene. He was so happy to hear this that he actually emancipated the serfs in Russia in 1862. Right. America frees the slaves 1863 to make it official in 1865. So they actually emancipated their serfs rather, in 1862. And the Soviet Union would hold that as a propaganda point against the United States throughout the entire Cold War. But Russia was so pro-Union, their Baltic fleet sailed to New York as a show of support. Their Asian fleet sailed to San Francisco as a show of support. Yeah, if you're looking for support abroad, hey, Russia's there for you, Union. How about the Germanic powers, Austria and Prussia? Well, Austria, they sent Maximilian over there, but that was an independent private venture. As far as diplomatic or military concerns, Austria just really has no opinion about the Civil War. They could really care less who wins. Prussia, kind of in the same boat. They did send observers to watch the Confederates and Unions smash away at each other. Publicly, they said they were not impressed. They were just military mobs, armed civilians chasing each other around. As the war goes on, the Union gets more experience and becomes a lot better. Confederacy starts to weaken, though they did fight hard to the end. Publicly, they deride American military prowess. Privately, yeah, I think they're a little bit concerned. Hope they don't end up having to fight these crazy Americans one day. Isn't that going to be ironic? How about the Ottoman Empire? What do they think about all of this? Well, the Ottoman Empire, again, not really much of an opinion on this thing. If anything, they might be a little bit pro-Union out of straight business concerns. With the Confederacy unable to send cotton to Great Britain, Britain needs to get cotton from another source. That source is going to be India. For it to get to India to Britain in a timely manner, that needs to get through the Suez Canal. And the Ottomans are more than happy to welcome the increased traffic through the Suez Canal. They also can grow cotton in Egypt. So maybe they can make a deal with London about cotton from Egypt, access to the Suez Canal, all for a reasonable price, of course. In 1882, the British are going to repo Egypt, take the cotton and the canal. What's the view from Asia? China and Japan. Well, China's got its own problems over here. They're trying to avoid being eaten alive by the Western colonial powers. So if they even look anywhere towards North America, they think it's just a couple of North American idiots fighting each other. So it's really nothing to do with China. Japan, on the other hand, is not very happy about the time Commodore Perry sailed into Tokyo Harbor and pointed the cannons at the Imperial Palace in 1853. A decade later, they might have a little bit of mild support for the Confederacy, hoping that the United States catches a couple of kicks to the shin there. But Japan is in the middle of modernizing. They jumped from the Middle Ages in 1853 to becoming a fully modernized 19th century nation by 1890. So, in other words, Japan's got other things to do right now. So here's some pro-Confederate support coming from Brazil. Isn't that strange? Brazil would be the last country ever to get rid of slavery. In 1890, they finally got rid of it. In the meantime, they definitely had some support for the Confederacy. Nothing substantial. They weren't going to send any armies. They have no money to send. It's just kind of a good luck and thumbs up sort of thing. But after the war, a lot of Confederates turned down the generous Union terms, oath of loyalty and, lay down your weapons. And they decided they were going to immigrate to Brazil. And yes, they still have a Confederate festival down there every year in Brazil. Yeah, a lot of people descended from former Confederates who decided to go to Brazil. They've been there ever since. Stars and Bars festivals. Its truth is much stranger than fiction. No idea, but there they are. And those wool uniforms must really be hot, man. It must be broiling in that heat. Hey, let's talk about some dinosaurs here. Utahraptor. What's a Utahraptor? You guess by the name, it's Utah's raptor. Pretty good-sized animal, too. Look at it compared to a 6 feet individual here. They don't have a full set of remains. A lot of this is extrapolation. But they do agree that this is not a normal body plan for the raptor. Not like the Velociraptor / Dionysius things you see running around in Jurassic Park. It's a lot bigger. The bones are heavier. It's still a formidable animal, but it's kind of a cross between, raptors and something like a T-Rex theropod. There's some debate about the size. The pink over there is the smallest one they think of. Might have been a juvenile. Red is the biggest, somewhat extrapolated. So in the middle is that pink, that dark maroon looking type. Again, compared to a human being, this thing is pretty big, and it doesn't fit the general pattern of a raptor. Much heavier bones, much larger, much more muscular. Just look at the skull on this thing. What's it look like to you? Yeah, it looks a little bit like a Tyrannosaurus Rex a little bit, doesn't it? Well, the reason for that, and of course nobody will ever give Mr. H credit for saying this in the scientific community, but we can't seem to find any evidence of the large Tyrannosaurus Rex-style theropods running around in North America at the time. T-Rex is way into the future there, 70 million years ago, whereas Utahraptor is running around in Western North America from 136 million years ago to 130 million years ago. All right, so before T-Rex, there's Tarbosaurus. Before Tarbosaurus, there's Baryonyx, but Baryonyx is living over in Europe. So there might be a gap there of large predatory dinosaurs, and the reason this Utahraptor is so big with the heavy bones and the T-Rex looking skull might be filling the gap. Maybe this was the apex predator for a while until, ancestors of Tyrannosaurus and Giganosaurus and those guys came down over the Asian land bridge. Just a little theory from your friend Mr. H. Again, we got the feathers debate, right? Some people say this is what it looks like with feathers. We haven't found any evidence of feathers on Utahraptor. Not saying it didn't have it, just haven't found the evidence. And considering how this Utahraptor deviates from the normal body plan of raptors, maybe it didn't have any feathers, right? Maybe it was a lot more lizard-like. Just something to think about, right? I mean, it died out 130 million years ago, so the evidence is a little bit scant, but hey, it's always good fuel for a debate if you're really bored on a Friday night. Question now is, since this thing was much larger than the usual raptor, and since it might be filling the gap before the larger theropods show up, was it a pack hunter or a solitary hunter? Well, it's a bigger animal, so it needs bigger animals to eat. It's certainly big enough to be its own hunter. However, the animals it's trying to eat are still much larger than it. So a solitary Utahraptor trying to hunt down a larger, say, sauropod type thing, this is what's going to happen. He's going to get swatted out of the way. He's trying to go for the little one, but the big one's not going to let it happen. So the way around this is to be a pack hunter. There we are. We're pretty sure it was a pack hunter. We found remains of other dinosaurs that have, teeth marks and claw marks that are probably from a Utahraptor or some kind of a raptor. Despite the unconventional body design, it's still a raptor, so it's probably a pack hunter. Given the brain case and everything is very intelligent, yeah, I'm willing to agree, probably a pack hunter. And that's going to lead to another question. If it's a pack hunter and really large, could it fight a large T-Rex style theropod? Yeah, everyone's thinking about the end of the first Jurassic Park movie, right? T-Rex against 3 raptors, T-Rex wins. We can't find evidence of a large theropod in North America at that time. Like I said, maybe Utahraptor was it. That explains why it's so big and, big deviation from the usual raptor body plan. If it did run into something like a T-Rex, could it win? One-on-one, no. As a pack hunter, might take it down. If there was such a theropod running around, we haven't found it yet, not saying it wasn't out there. Would this confrontation take place? Probably not very often. In the course of 30 million years, it must have happened at some point. But probably not very often. Maybe because they're fighting over the same kill, or they're scavenging, or maybe it decides to try and steal the kill. Who knows? In a fight to the death, though, even if they take down the T-Rex type thing, yeah, they're going to lose quite a few members of their pack. So I think they're smart enough to back off. But sometimes you're going to get a fight like this. All right, let's just get this out of the way. Congratulations, Kansas City Chiefs. All right, I wanted to see San Francisco win because I wanted to see Taylor Swift crying there, but no, they won. She's not crying. The whole thing with Kelsey and all that. Yeah, go away. I mean, the silver lining is if the Niners had won, they would have tied the Steelers' record of 6 Super Bowls. So yeah, I guess it's a win-win, but I don't know. I'm willing to give that record up to see Taylor Swift bawling her eyeballs out, but yeah, I guess it was not meant to be. Now that the NFL season is over, hey, we got spring football coming up. The XFL and USFL decided to merge. I was hoping for the XFUSFL as a name, but they decided to go with United Football League, not to be confused with the 2009-2012 disaster. This is a completely different league. I was hoping for 16 teams. Turns out they're only going to have 8, which means the teams that did not have a home stadium over in the USFL, they were out. So, unfortunately, Pittsburgh Maulers, they folded up tents and went home. So did Philadelphia, so did New Orleans, and so did the Houston Gamblers. However, the Houston Gamblers took the name Houston Roughnecks. So, they're still there, just in a different name. Over in the XFL, the underperforming Vegas Vipers and Orlando Guardians, they were folded up and went home. Seattle, it was a painful decision. They decided too far away, so they were gone. They're going to keep St. Louis. I mean, that one was a no-brainer, and keep Arlington. So they merged it together, and we got 8 teams. And here they are. I got XFL Conference and a USFL Conference. So keeping that sense of rivalry alive. But, hey, we're all still on the same side. Don't forget that. So in the XFL Conference, like I said, the defending champion Arlington Renegades. We got the DC Defenders, the San Antonio Brahmas, and the St. Louis Battlehawks. The USFL Conference, the 2-time defending champion Birmingham Stallions. And the Houston Gamblers are still there, but they took the name Roughnecks. All right, because you're very popular in Houston. Got the Memphis Showboats and the Michigan Panthers. So they're going to play each other, and this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. And the very first game, you guessed it, it's going to be the 2-time defending USFL champion Birmingham Stallions against the reigning XFL champion Arlington Renegades. The very first game they're playing actually in Arlington. They flipped a coin. Arlington won. So that's going to be the first battle of this new league. I am really looking forward to it. Don't know who my team is going to be since Pittsburgh doesn't have one. I kind of like DC. I like the grass field. I also like the beer snake tradition. I think that's absolutely hysterical. This Birmingham Arlington thing, the two champions of the old leagues now part of a new league facing each other. Hey, there's history repeating itself. The Cleveland Browns weren't always an NFL team. They started off in the All-American Football Conference from 1946 to 1949, and they were absorbed by the NFL. So that first year, the first season after 1950, they had the Cleveland Browns, who were the defending champions from the old AAFC, against the Philadelphia Eagles from the NFL to see how it would turn out. By the way, Cleveland won 35-10. They won the NFL championship that year. So a little bit of history repeating itself all over the place. It always happens. It's going to happen again, and it will continue to happen because that's planet Earth. That's how it operates. You guys have yourself a fantastic day. Have a great weekend. Keep it safe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that subscribe bell over there. And here, one more quick plug for my book there, just in case you didn't catch it the first time. Buy it. Why not? I got $1.12. After all, it's a long way to catch up to Taylor Swift's fortune. And I won't be crying, at least not when the camera's on. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Das vidanya.